When you filed your claim, you assumed the VA would decide it using the medical records you uploaded, the ones you spent weeks pulling together. That is not what happens. The person deciding your claim is working from a different file entirely, one you have probably never seen. It is called your C file, your claims file, the VA's official record of everything connected to your name and your benefits. Every rater, every examiner, every judge, whoever touches your claim, works from it, not from your upload. And at the moment your claim reaches them, it may not even contain your full medical history yet. So here is the problem nobody warns you about. You can do everything right, upload everything, and still have your claim decided from a file that does not reflect your complete picture. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what is in that file, why it might be thin, how to get your own copy, and how to read it like the VA does. The claims file is the VA's official record of everything connected to your benefits history. It is maintained by the Veterans Benefits Administration, and it is completely separate from the VA healthcare system you deal with for appointments and prescriptions. Different building, different database, different world. Here is what makes it unlike anything else in this process. Every single person who formally evaluates your claim works from this one file. Every rater, every C&P examiner, every decision review officer, every Board of Veterans Appeals judge, not your uploaded packet, the C file. Think of it as the VA's back office for you. Every claim you have filed, every decision, every exam report, every letter, every record they pulled, it all sits in that one file. When someone decides your fate, that is the file open in front of them. So how do you know what is supposed to be in there? 2 rulebooks answer that, and each does a different job. The first is a law that gives you the right to the file. The second is the internal manual that says what belongs in it. Rulebook 1. The Privacy Act of 1974. To understand why it matters, you have to know what things were like before it. Before 1974, the federal government could keep records on you and never tell you. Your taxes, your service, your files, scattered across agencies. You could have a file at 3 different agencies and never know a single one existed. The Privacy Act changed that. Congress said, when a federal agency builds a system to keep records on people, it has to publicly announce it. What records it keeps, who is in it, where they are stored, what they are used for. It published in the Federal Register. That public notice is why your C file is not a secret. So put the 2 sides together. Your side, you served, you filed, and the moment you filed, the VA opened a file on you. Their side, the law required them to publicly admit they keep that file, which means when you request your C file, you are not asking for a favor. You are asking for something the law has said belongs to you since 1974. Rulebook 2, the M21-1 Adjudication Procedures Manual. Every big organization has an internal handbook, the one employees are trained on. When this happens, do this. The VA has thousands of people making decisions about benefits every day, so it wrote one of the most important documents in this entire process, and almost no veteran has ever heard of it. Part 3 of the M21-1 covers your C file. In plain terms, it says the file should hold every claim form, every rating decision, every C&P exam report, every piece of VA correspondence, and every record the VA gathered while working your case. That is what is supposed to be there, but designed to hold is not the same as actually holds. If you have never filed before, your C file might contain almost nothing yet. The VA cannot put records in your file that it has not obtained, so the rater and the examiner may be working from a file that does not yet reflect your complete medical history. That is the system running on a timeline that does not always match yours. Here's the scenario that catches most veterans off guard, and it happens most often to the ones who did everything right. You separated recently. You filed your intent to file early and protected your effective date. Textbook. Then the C&P exam gets scheduled, and you walk in assuming the examiner has your complete picture in front of them. They may not. Under 38 CFR 3.159, the VA has a duty to assist, and that includes gathering your records before a decision is made. That obligation is real, but gathering takes time, and the C&P exam runs on its own schedule. For a veteran who filed fast after separation, the exam can happen before the records gathering has caught up, so the examiner opens your C file, and what is in it at that moment may be far less than your complete medical history. The very thing that protected your effective date, filing early, is the same thing that can put you in that exam room ahead of your own records. And here's why that is dangerous. If your C file is thin when that appointment happens, the conversation you have with the examiner may be the primary input they have when they write their report. That report feeds your rating decision. That decision determines your compensation. A thin file at the wrong moment echoes all the way down. Walking into that exam prepared is its own subject, and we cover it in depth in another video, but you cannot prepare for what is in your file until you have actually seen it. So before anything else, you need your own copy of the C file in your hands. You request your C file under two laws working together, the Freedom of Information Act and the Privacy Act. FOIA gives the public the right to federal records. The Privacy Act gives you the right to the records the government keeps on you specifically. Together, they establish your legal right to the complete file, not a loophole. Federal law, the request runs on one form, VA Form 20-10206, the FOIA and Privacy Act request form. On it, you specify that you want your complete claims file, the C file, every document, every page, not a summary, not selected sections, the whole thing. And one detail that trips people up, it needs a real signature, signed by hand, not typed. How you send it changed, so use a current method. You can no longer email the request. You submit the signed form through the VA's online quick submit tool, which is the fastest, or by fax, or by mail to the evidence intake center. One method, keep your confirmation, and the request will show up as a tracked item in your va.gov account. Now set your expectations on time, because this is not fast. Plan on months, not weeks. 3 to 4 months is common, and a large file or one pulled from physical archives can run 6 months or longer. That is exactly why you start this now, not after your C&P exam, not after your rating decision. Now running in parallel with everything else you are doing. When your C file finally arrives, brace yourself. It can be hundreds of pages, often thousands, and it is not organized the way you would expect. It is not sorted by topic, not sorted by date. Documents are filed roughly in the order they arrived, so a single claim's records can be scattered across the whole thing. Most veterans open it, feel buried, and close it. Do not be that veteran. There's a method the professionals use, and it flips the intimidation on its head. Do not start at page 1. Start with your most recent rating decision and work backward from there. That one document is the map to everything else. Here's why that works. The latest rating decision shows you exactly which evidence the rater actually relied on to reach their conclusion. It names the documents that mattered, so instead of reading thousands of pages blind, you let the decision point you to the handful of documents that actually drove the outcome, and you go read those. Once the decision points you to the C&P exam report, read it in full and do one specific thing. Compare the examiner's written narrative against the checkbox findings on the DBQ. When the narrative and the boxes tell different stories about the same exam, you have found something. That mismatch is often the single strongest basis for an appeal. And watch for the two gaps that decide cases. Evidence you assumed was in the file, but is simply missing, and evidence that is present, but was weighed against the wrong claim, or never acknowledged in the decision at all. The distance between what you thought was in your file and what is actually there is where the real work of your claim begins. So here's the whole thing. Plain. Your C file is the real record the VA decides your claim from, not the packet you uploaded. The law has given you the right to it since 1974. You request the complete file on VA Form 20-10206 0206, you start now because it takes months, and when it arrives, you read it backward from your latest decision. And if you served long enough to hold a clearance, you already understand this instinct. You never let anyone build a file on you without knowing exactly what was in it. You reviewed your own SF-86. You knew your own record cold. This is the same discipline, pointed at the one file that decides your compensation. Know your own file. You should not have to figure out the wording of a federal records request on your own. We built you a tool called the C-File Request Kit. Put in your details, and it generates a clean, correctly worded VA Form 20-10206 request that asks for your complete file, cites both laws, and includes the language the VA looks for. Print it, sign it by hand, send it. The link is in the description. It's built, it's waiting, it's yours. Use it. Nothing here is a promise of any particular rating. Every claim is different. What we give you is the cleanest way we know to execute. For Guard and Reserve, women veterans, step-by-step or benefits news, subscribe to the channel that fits your fight. Now that you know how to get the file the VA decides from, there is one document inside it that carries more weight than any other. It is the exam where a stranger spends 20 minutes deciding how your service changed your body. Walk in unprepared, and it can undo everything. It is called the C&P exam. Watch that one next. There's got to be another way, and this is it.